right. The Eagle has landed.
Hey guys, Tori here from Overlook Horizon. Welcome back to another launch day. We're getting another rocket launch heading off here. It's been a busy month this month. This is another SpaceX launch tonight. This one here is for another set of Starlink satellites. So we're getting ready to send up another 60 Starlink satellites into low Earth orbit for SpaceX's internet constellation. Today is November 24th, 2020. It's 8:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the East Coast where I am located. It's also where we're launching today. In case that's not the time it is where you are, you're probably watching the replay. If you are, I'll put timestamps in the description below. Or I guess maybe you're in a different time zone, but you know what I meant. If you convert the time and you carry the 1 and it's still not you minus 5 and add, and it's still not, then you're probably watching a replay. That's how it works, I think. Did I do that right? Yeah, okay. Anyway, so we're getting ready to launch some satellites tonight. This has been pushed off a couple of times now. It was supposed to go on Sunday, and then it was going to go, and we had a scrub for mission assurance reasons. And then it was also going to go on Monday, yesterday, but we scrubbed for recovery weather. Actually, I don't even think that was necessarily a scrub. I don't think we even started the countdown yesterday. But we have another attempt today, and things are looking okay. We'll get to the weather here in just a minute. See a bunch of comments flowing in. I see we got some people on Facebook, on Periscope. We got a whole bunch of people watching with us on YouTube. This is good stuff. But before SpaceX goes live, why don't I throw up our stuff? We can check it, what we're looking at here today. Sorry, I have to fix my headphones because they're bothering me. There we go. That seems a little better. And let's take a look at what we got going today. Then we'll take some questions and see how much time we have left. It'll be a nice little Tuesday evening, I think, for us, right? So, where's my 3D map? We'll take a look at flightclub.io first, and let's dive into it. So here's the path here that we're taking for the Starlink launch. We are launching from Cape Canaveral over here on the East Coast. This is Slick 40. Slick 40. I always get those mixed up. 40 and 41. Slick 40, which is SpaceX's pad. 41 is United Launch Alliance. And this is the smaller of the two SpaceX pads down here. The big one is up here, 39A. That's where Crew Dragon launches from, Falcon Heavy. 39B up here, which is reserved for SLS someday. This is the United Launch Alliance pad right here. So launching here from Cape Canaveral, this will not be a return to launch site landing, but we do have a landing out at sea today. Let's see, can I navigate this? It goes like this, and then like this, and then, okay. So you can see we're under powered flight with the red. Here's your first stage separation right there. Second stage continues on in red into orbit. First stage is going to come down, do an entry burn, a landing burn, and land at sea on the drone ship. Special today, 100th flight for the Falcon 9, and this is the first time that a booster will fly 7 times. 7 times today. Launching a booster 7 times, so this is kind of exciting. We're getting up there in numbers. This will be the fleet leader. 7 times flown with this booster, so pretty exciting here. Then obviously second stage is going to continue into orbit. Let's see if I can navigate the map here. It's going to like this way. Yep, it's going to continue into orbit, head around here, and actually we have a quick deployment today. A lot of times these Starlink satellites have been deploying like an hour after launch. Today it's quick, only 14 minutes after launch today. Not sure why the big difference. We'll get into that a little bit, but it is a quick deployment today. 14 minutes after launch instead of an hour after launch. So we'll have a quick deployment. And then, of course, being good spacefaring citizens, that second stage, it's going to deorbit. It's otherwise known as deorbit. Second stage is going to come back, break up, Not going to land, not recoverable. It's going to break up in the atmosphere in a whole bunch of pieces.
It's going to deorbit.
Right, I said that already. So here's another look at, this is the flight hazards map here by Raul on Twitter. You can type !hazards in the YouTube chat, and I'll give you a link to this in case you want to support Raul or check out the map yourself. But heading northeast, and I'll show you why in a minute. But again, obviously launching from Cape Canaveral, pad 40. Out here, we've got a drone ship recovery for the first stage, flight number 7. And then the fairing recovery ship is out here, but I think we have just one that we're expected today. I don't think we're getting both fairings, but we're going to have to listen in to what SpaceX has to say. Last I checked, I thought one of them was not... I think it's Miss Tree, who broke the net a couple weeks back. I don't think it's participating, although that might have just been for Sunday. Maybe it's ready by now, but I don't think Miss Tree is participating. I think just Miss Chief is participating. So I think they're going to maybe catch one and pluck the other one out of the water. We'll see. We'll see what they have to say today during there. One fairing question mark. Well, they're going to have both fairing halves, but obviously just one is going to, come back and do the catch thing. Maybe, hopefully. See if they actually do it. And then, like I said, with that second stage,
it's going to deorbit.
Right, second stage is going to deorbit. Here is the second stage re-entry area, which is also a little bit different. But again, we're deploying 14 minutes after launch instead of 60 minutes after launch. Oh, Norman, good catch on the EDT versus EST. Yeah, I guess my timeline says EDT. It should say EST. That is incorrect. We're in EST now. But obviously you can tell I designed the timeline in EDT. But that hasn't been updated. So good catch there, Norman. I will fix that. Not right now, but I'll fix that at some point. All right, so let's continue on. The big question here is going to be with weather. So our mission execution forecast shows only a 20% chance of violating launch conditions. Again, remember that doesn't include upper level winds. Also doesn't include recovery weather, but the actual launch conditions, 20% chance. Concerns being liftoff winds, which is a bit of my concern as well, and the cumulus cloud rule. Liftoff winds were looking a little bit high, but not too crazy terrible, but a little bit high. You can see with our Venture Sky map here, we've got winds coming in off the coast, 15 miles per hour, but just offshore here, they get up to like 20 miles per hour, 21. It's getting a little bit higher off the coast here, but holding it about 15 miles per hour. Somebody will have to convert that to metric for me, but holding it 15 miles per hour off the coast, or coming in off the coast here. So that's probably going to be our concern. That's ground level winds. Upper level winds, also a little bit on a high side, but nothing that Falcon 9 hasn't launched through before, so I'm not too concerned with upper level winds. The concern that you might have with upper level winds, though, is that they're going completely different directions. This is where we run into wind shear. So again, look, we've got upper level winds heading west to east, almost, with a little bit of an arc there. Ground level winds heading east to west, completely opposite directions. So at the ground, it's coming in, going east to west. Up in the air, it's going west to east. It's that's where you get some wind shear, going completely opposite directions. So it could be a concern, but I'm not too worried about it today. There was a little bit of radar issues here, which you can actually see almost dead center. Pretty much, it is dead center over pad 40 right now, is this bit of precipitation. So it was raining there a little bit earlier, and that's going to be a concern because obviously we can't launch with that, but it's a tiny little bit, so hopefully it'll pass on by and we'll be good to go. But remember, this is for all intents and purposes, this is a instantaneous launch window. There is a window there, but once they start the fueling procedure, which they have started, then it turns into an instantaneous launch window because it would take Falcon 9 too long to recycle in order to still fit in the launch window. So if they don't hit this window, they can't just delay, because if they delay, they have to recycle, which means they have to start the fueling process over again. Would take too long. They can't just hold it there because of that super densified, super cold liquid oxygen. It has to be at the perfect temperature. If you don't launch when you're supposed to, you've got to start the fueling over again. So that's a bit of a concern for today, is that precipitation. And then what are we launching here exactly is going to be our Starlink satellites here. So this is Starlink, what I call Starlink 15. Now, some people call this Starlink 16. Oh, not a replay. Let's turn that replay text off. Always forget to turn that off. I'm calling it Starlink 15. Some people call this Starlink 16. This is the 15th batch of version 1.0 satellites. There was one batch of version 0.9 satellites, so technically this is the 16th launch of Starlink satellites, but the 15th version 1.0. So the big long name is V1.0-L15. So there's no 16 in the name. It is the 16th batch launched, but this is version 1.0 launch 15, which is why we call it Starlink 15. And of course, giving you an idea of what is happening, here's the current status of the Starlink satellites right here. You can see this web that we're weaving over the Earth to try to get full coverage of that high-speed, low-latency internet service in low Earth orbit. We've got geostationary satellites way out here. Let me make them so you can see them. We've got geostationary satellites, this red ring here, that there are. Can I find one? Let's see. No, I can't. Nope. So we have some out there, but they're not super fast. High latency because they're so far away, because they're in geostationary orbits. So there's also a lot fewer of them, so it's a lot less expensive. Starlink, you need a whole bunch of them. We're gonna have 800 or so is what they wanted to get the beta up and running. 4,000 to 5,000 would be kind of coverage for the world. 12,000 would be full coverage, and then you could be up to 40,000 would be full coverage with on-orbit spares and different tiered service levels and everything else. So you'd have a whole bunch of options there. So that's the web that we have right now. Looks like that. All right, let's see. SpaceX isn't live yet. They will be soon, hopefully. But let's get to a couple questions, because I think I covered. Did I get everything? Did I cover everything? Yeah, I got to everything. We'll get to a couple questions, and then hopefully we'll see a launch here tonight. Let's see what we've got. Let me go back. There's a whole bunch of stuff here, so I'll try to go back here. Hey, Steven Perez, thanks for the super chat. Thanks for your support. Really appreciate that. Steven says, love your videos. The last video about the toilet, I remember asking you about that on one of your other lives. I think I'll become a channel member soon. Well, thank you, Steven. Appreciate that. Appreciate the kind words. Yeah, Steven's talking about our 2-Minute Tuesday video today, which came out this morning. 2-Minute Tuesday about the Crew Dragon's toilet. Because so many people asked me about it, I thought we should make a video about it. So we've got a video about the Crew Dragon's toilet from SpaceX, and that's on our channel right now. And if you do become a channel member, Steven, at the Rocket Engineer or higher tiers, you can get early access to 2-Minute Tuesday as a channel member or a Patreon member. So, there you go. Randy wants to know, what's the scheduled time for launch? Well, instead of me giving you an exact time, well, it is 9:13 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but the best thing to do would be to look right up here at our events list, which will give you the countdown here. So we're about 14 minutes to launch. So wherever you are, just add 14 minutes, and that's what time launch is going to be. Let's see. Jason Wentworth said, today's Spaceflight Now article says that it appears they will recover one or both fairing halves from the water. Maybe they're working on the catch net improvements for future missions. Yeah, remember Miss Tree's net broke after one of the previous fairing catches, just gave way and needed to be repaired. So that's likely one of the main reasons why we don't have a full set of fairing recovery ships out there right now. Let's see. I like Glenn Haggis's recommendation. He says, let's call it Starlink 15.5. Just meet in the middle. All right. Let's see what else we got. SpaceX is just getting ready to start their live stuff, so they'll be almost ready for us here soon. See, they did. Can't they just sew the net back together? Well, these are huge nets, don't forget. Huge nets. Let's see what else. Hey, Jason Ellingson, one of our channel members also. Jason, thanks for the super chat. Thanks for your support there. This minute is sponsored by the Space Lobster.
Lobster Fest is on.
That's right. Lobster Fest is on. We're ready to go. Ready for launch.
Space Lobster ate the T-Teb. That's the answer.
No. We don't want Space Lobster eating any T-Teb today. Everything's going to be good. All right, what is the life expectancy of the Starlink satellite? Somebody asked this before, and I looked it up, but I can't recall. Most satellites are usually like 10 years is their life expectancy, but I think that the Starlink satellites are going to be much shorter than that. I wanted to say that they're only planning to keep them up for like 2 to 5 years, somewhere, a much shorter time span, because they want to update the technology quickly, especially in this early stage of the Starlink satellite launches, as they're trying to upgrade the technology quickly, get it up and running, and then they can improve upon it as fast as possible. And because it's all in-house and they're doing this, again, today's booster is a 7th flight. Like, that lowers costs so much for SpaceX. That things are not that high cost when you can reuse a booster 7 times. And this booster, assuming it lands okay today, will likely fly another Starlink satellite next. Elon Musk has said that these fleet leaders that are putting on the miles, so to speak, are going to be pretty much used just for their internal missions, which pretty much right now is just Starlink. So these fleet leaders are going to be just for Starlink missions. So looks like SpaceX is about to go live. So why don't we get... Oh, uh-oh. Why is that only taking up half our screen here? Let's fix that. There we go. Okay, so they're about to go live. We'll get this up and running. Remember, it's a quick deployment today. Only 14 minutes after launch, we'll have these satellites deployed. So we'll have a quick launch. We'll chat about it a little bit afterwards, and then we'll call it a night. Be nice and quick. If you want to chat more about it, you can join our Discord, which is free. There's no cost to join Discord. We can chat more about it.
You're looking at a live view of Falcon 9 as it awaits its 9:13 p.m. Eastern Time launch from Pad 40 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. Hello from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. My name is Kate Tice, and I'm a senior certification engineer here at SpaceX. You're watching a live webcast for our 16th Starlink mission and our 23rd mission this year. This mission is also notable because with today's launch, we are attempting to fly a Falcon 9 booster for the 7th time. If you've been following our progress, you also know that we recently launched our Better Than Nothing beta program in the northern US and southern Canada. So I'll be sure to talk all about that a little bit later in the webcast. We're currently at T-minus 9.5 minutes till launch, and all systems are go for an on-time liftoff this evening.
Good evening. My name is Shiva Bharadwaj, and I'm a space operations engineer here at SpaceX. On your screen is a live view of Falcon 9. That's our 2-stage liquid-fueled vehicle. Now, Falcon 9 is 70 meters tall, which is greater than the wingspan of a 747 aircraft. As Kate had mentioned previously, we are flying today's booster for the 7th time. That's a first for Falcon 9. This rocket previously flew on the Telstar 18 Vantage mission, the Iridium 7 mission, as well as 4 Starlink missions. Now, Falcon 9 was designed for 10 or more flights with minimal refurbishment in between each flight, and today's flight will get us closer to that goal. The bottom 2/3 of the vehicle is what we refer to as the first stage. You can actually tell it from the soot markings left over from its previous 6 flights. Now, the first stage's job is to accelerate the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere into space with the help of 9 Merlin engines that it has at the base of the rocket. We will be attempting to recover this first stage for the 7th time on our drone ship named Of Course I Still Love You, pictured on your screen, about 630 or so kilometers downrange. Now, on top of the first stage is our black carbon fiber inner stage, and on top of that is Falcon 9's second stage. It has a single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine, and once the first and second stages separate about 2.5 minutes into the mission, that Merlin vacuum engine will ignite and carry the 60 Starlink satellites into an elliptical orbit around planet Earth. Now, Falcon 9 has been loading propellants since about T-minus 35 minutes. We use a rocket-grade kerosene or rocket propellant 1, RP1, as our fuel, and super-chilled liquid oxygen, or LOX, as our oxidizer to power the Falcon 9. Now, propellants are nearly fully loaded on both the first and second stages, where we'll be continuing to top up the liquid oxygen until the final minutes of the countdown. Now, at the very top of the rocket is our nose cone structure. That's what we call the satellite fairing. That's where the stack of those 60 Starlink satellites is safely housed. The fairing's job is to protect those satellites from aerothermal heating, aerodynamic loads, and contamination during ascent. And once we reach the vacuum of space, we'll actually jettison them back as the second stage will continue on its journey to orbit. We are flying a flight-proven fairing today. It'll be the second flight for one of the halves and the third flight for the other. And our recovery vessels, Mischief and Go Searcher, will be attempting to recover those fairing halves today by scooping them out of the water.
So it sounds
now,
like
quick
both are
update
going to
on
land
the
in the
weather.
water.
We've been tracking some minor cumulus clouds and actually wind in the area, but overall we are at an 80% chance of go, so keeping an eye on those winds. But other than that, vehicle, satellites, weather, and the range all looking good for an on-time liftoff just a few minutes from now.
As many of you know, Starlink is a constellation of satellites that can provide high-speed, low-latency internet all over the globe, particularly in remote or rural areas where connectivity is limited or completely unavailable. To date, SpaceX has launched nearly 900 Starlink satellites to orbit. Less than a month ago, we rolled out our Better Than Nothing beta service to the northern US, and just last week, we rolled out service to parts of southern Canada. During our first public beta, users can expect to see data speeds vary from 50 megabits per second to 150 megabits per second, and latency vary from 20 milliseconds to 40 milliseconds. There will also be brief periods of no connectivity at all. As we launch more satellites, install more ground stations, and improve our networking software, data speed, latency, and uptime will all improve dramatically. For latency, we expect to achieve 16 to 19 milliseconds by summer 2021. Right now, our beta program is invitation only, and it is based entirely on your location. Within the northern US and southern Canada, we are focused on rural and remote areas where there is no easy access to fiber or cable. Now, on your screen there, you see an example of one of our service areas, or what we call a cell. This particular cell is in an area of Minnesota near the town of Hitterdal. Hey, Hitterdal, folks. So, based on this example, if you lived in Hitterdal, Hawley, Winnipeg Junction, or the nearby area, we could probably service you. But if, for example, you lived in Lake Park, you'd be just outside of our current coverage area. Now, we have cells like this all over the northern US and Canada within the 45 to 53 degree latitudes. And with every launch of Starlink satellites, we enable our team to serve more and more of these cells. If you're hoping to receive an invite, all you need is a bit of patience. At our current pace, we expect to expand our beta in a notable way very early next year, in the late January-February timeframe. If that sounds interesting to you, head over to starlink.com and sign up.
I think I'm just
We're
outside of that range.
Just over 4 minutes away from liftoff. Falcon 9 is now moving into the final stages of countdown. Now, at this point, the first and second stages are fully loaded with RP1 and nearly fully loaded with liquid oxygen. There's almost 1 million pounds of both of those propellants on the vehicle. Super chilled liquid oxygen, which I mentioned earlier, is our propellant oxidizer, is actually what's creating that white cloud that you see coming off of Falcon 9's inner stage. That's what happens when that cold liquid oxygen comes into contact with the moist Florida air and causes water vapor to condense into clouds. We'll be continuing to top up the liquid oxygen on both the first and second stage. We'll expect to hear a call out here for LOX load closeout on the first stage at about T-minus 3 minutes. And then about a minute after that, T-minus 2 minutes, we'll hear a similar call out for the second stage. And you can really get a sense of the wind right on the pad from those streams.
That's going to be the
liquid
concern.
Oxygen venting
That wind is a concern for me.
off the stage.
What happened to our weather? Remember, Pad 40 has amazing pad mics, so we should get some awesome sound, and actually you can hear a little bit of the wind if I would just be quiet, but you can hear some of the wind sound.
Bleed verification.
Now, coming up at about, again, we'll have at T-minus 2 minutes, LOX load closeout on the second stage. And then at T-minus 60 seconds, Falcon 9 will transition into startup. That means that the rocket's internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown, and they'll continue to have control of the vehicle through the rest of the mission.
Here's our
At
winds
this point,
just for
the
reference.
Starlink payload also continues to look healthy. Falcon 9 team not tracking any issues on the vehicle.
So winds are like 20 miles per hour right now,
The
which is a
big watch
bit
item
high.
right now is the winds. They were projected to dip right around the launch window, again, about 2 minutes away from now. Keeping an eye on those, making sure that we don't violate any launch commit criteria.
That's gonna be the question. Will the winds hold out? It's sounding super windy right now. You can hear that wind roaring. So there will be the big final vent coming up
Wide
at
shot there
a minute
of-
30.
LOX closed out.
Wide shot there of the pad and the call from the prop team that stage 2 LOX loading is complete. With that, propellants are fully loaded on Falcon 9. Coming up here, we will have a pretty large white cloud of venting coming from the transporter erector. That's the truss structure next to Falcon 9. And it provides power, cooling, and propellants, as well as communication to Falcon 9 until liftoff.
Can we do it? There's the last big vent as they drain all the liquid oxygen and all the fuels out of the transport erector, the strong back there. You get one big vent.
Coming up, transition to startup on Falcon 9.
Your startup, we're going to get the LD call at
Falcon 9's in startup.
launch director's going to call at
So again, that
45
means
seconds.
from here, Falcon 9 will begin to pressurize those tanks, the first stage and second stage tanks with our pressurant for flight.
LDs go for launch.
LD's go. That's
Great
good.
news from the launch director,
Stage 2, press for flight.
giving their go for flight. So with that, just 30 seconds to go. Vehicle looking healthy. Looks like we may have just squeaked in under the wind.
seconds and counting.
That's it. We're going to be
Starlink
good for
satellites
wind.
also continuing to look healthy. Why don't we listen in and watch terminal count?
We're good. Oh, get rid of the replay text.
T-minus 15 seconds.
Falcon 9 is configured for flight.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition and liftoff.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
M1D chamber pressures are nominal.
Seconds into flight, Falcon 9 successfully lifting off from Pad 40 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, carrying those 60 Starlink satellites into orbit. This particular booster lighting up the Florida coast for a 7th time. Now, we just began throttling down those Merlin 1D engines for maximum dynamic pressure, or max Q. That's the point when the stresses on the vehicle
Supersonic.
are the highest from the combination of the vehicle speed and the density of the atmosphere.
Here's Max Q right here.
Max Q.
And now that we're through the point of maximum dynamic pressure, the loads on the vehicle, the structural loads, are going to drop off as the density of the atmosphere continues to decrease. And Falcon 9 continuing to speed up. We're about a minute away from 3 events. First of those is main engine cutoff, or MECO. That's where we'll shut off those 9 Merlin 1D engines. You can actually see the plume expanding from them on your camera. We shut those down.
Engine chill started.
In preparation for stage separation. That's where the first and second stages will separate from each other. First stage continuing on a parabolic arc to make its way back to the drone ship, while the second stage continues on to the third event, second engine start number 1. We actually just heard the call out there for MVAC chill-in beginning. So during that third event, second engine start 1, we'll ignite the Merlin vacuum engine that'll propel the second stage along with the Starlink satellites into an elliptical orbit. And we chill in those turbo pumps with liquid oxygen just to get them ready.
10 seconds to MECO, less than 10 seconds, like 3 seconds to MECO.
And MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
Here comes a stiffener ring breaking off that right engine bell. There it goes.
Left-hand side of your screen.
Ignition.
First stage separating. Second stage ignition. Love that green glow from the TTAB ignition.
Look at the night
Both
sky
vehicles
over
back
by the
on their way. Coming up
first
shortly,
stage booster.
we'll expect to see fairing deployment off of the second stage. Look for that on the right-hand side of your screen.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Beautiful shot there of those Starlink satellites. Finally getting to see space directly. We now that we're outside of the atmosphere, we don't need those fairing halves anymore, so we'll jettison back to Earth to recover them. As a reminder, we do have our recovery ships, Miss Chief and Ghost Searcher, waiting at the Atlantic to scoop up both of those fairing halves.
The grid fin's glowing. That's actually a glow from the second stage engine there. So we saw the grid fins glowing.
Left-hand side of your screen there, we saw the very last remnants of night lights visible off the Florida coast. That was a pretty awesome sight there as Falcon 9 lifted off. Now there we can see second stage with a healthy glow there on the MVAC engine. As second stage heads towards its targeted drop-off orbit, the first stage will execute 2 burns in order to make its way back to Earth. Now, if you happen to have followed along with our most recent launch on this past Saturday, where we launched out of Vandenberg Air Force Base, we performed 3 maneuvers in that instance because we were returning to launch site where we were landing the first stage back on land. Tonight, we are landing on the drone ship, as Shiva said before. Of course, I still love you. So we only need to perform 2 maneuvers because we are continuing the arc trajectory of the first stage. So that first burn is the entry burn, and we will reignite 3 of the 9 M1D engines at the base of the first stage. And this will help to slow that stage down as it re-enters the upper part of the Earth's atmosphere. And then the second burn is the landing burn. This is a single engine burn that brings the vehicle speed down rapidly in order to make a soft landing
on a nominal trajectory
on the drone ship.
So that
So we heard there that the vehicle's on nominal trajectory. That's good news there. At this point in time, the first stage has reached apogee and is now starting its trip back down to the ocean. Our drone ship is parked a couple hundred miles off the coast of Florida in the Atlantic Ocean. It is, as you saw, a nighttime launch, and unfortunately, we can't really see anything. So we don't have very good first stage footage to show you at this point in time. But we will bring that back in once we get some landing burn action, re-entry burn action. Checking in on second stage, everything continues to look good. The 60 Starlink satellites that are on board today are joining the constellation of nearly 900 that we've already placed on orbit. These satellites are designed to provide high-speed, low-latency internet to folks like us here on Earth. And this is especially helpful for places where good internet is hard to access.
Wingman wants to know if the drone ship is crewed. There is
First stage is continuing to coast, and it uses nothing but grid fins for that steering, as well as occasional nitrogen gas bursts for attitude control.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
So on your left-hand side of the screen, yes, we will see the entry burn beginning.
Entry burn startup.
It's our entry burn.
And entry burn has begun.
There is a crew that goes with the drone ship, but they're not on the drone ship during landing. They go out with one of the support ships, usually the tug that pulls the drone ship, because the drone ship can't get itself out there by it. Can't get itself out there, so it needs a tug that pulls it out.
And shutdown of first stage entry burn. So
Stage
that
2
burn
continues to follow a nominal trajectory.
That burn was designed to slow the booster down significantly as it re-enters the upper parts of the Earth's atmosphere.
Somebody asked about my telemetry that we had last time. The
next maneuver will be the landing burn, and it is the final one, where we reignite just one single Merlin engine to make a soft landing on top of the drone ship.
We will have that telemetry again.
As we mentioned earlier, this is the 7th.
Stage 1 entry transonic.
There we go.
We just heard that the booster is now transonic as it is re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. As I was saying, this is the 7th successful launch for this booster, and that will make this the 7th recovery attempt. Everything's continuing to look good there on the second stage. The
Stage 2 terminal guidance.
MVAC engine has begun to throttle down.
Landing burn startup.
There we heard the call out that landing burn has begun, so we should see that come into the screen here just momentarily.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
You see the glow on the drone ship deck there. Can we get clean video? No cutout.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
Landing legs have deployed. Here it comes.
A little bit of...
All right. And for the 7th time, this Falcon has landed.
7 times.
This marks our 61st successful recovery of a Falcon 9 first stage.
And we have Seco.
And as the smoke clears, we can get a good view there. And we just heard the call out that we had Seco 1, or second engine cut off 1. So at this point in time,
insertion.
And there we heard the call out that we have good orbit for that second stage. So now that stage 2 is, it's going to coast in this orbit for a few minutes. During this time, it will start to spin along its central axis, giving the Starlink satellites the momentum that they need to space themselves out over time as they deploy. So we're going to take a quick break here, but we will be returning at T plus 14 minutes, so stick around.
Expected loss of signal, Cape.
So this is, we got a couple minutes here until the actual deployment, just to give you an idea on what's about to happen. So this is our simulation we did in Kerbal Space Program. We're about to deploy the Starlink satellites here. And the entire second stage is going to do this spin maneuver here, where it spins along its central axis, which is what she just said, and then it's going to just let go of the satellites. There's no pusher mechanism to actually push them off, it just lets go. And that spin maneuver allows each of those satellites to travel at slightly different speeds, because the satellites on the outside would be traveling faster. They have to cover more distance in the same amount of time as the satellites on the inside of the circle. So those are traveling slightly faster, and they'll naturally spread out like this just by letting go. And all of a sudden they kind of spread themselves out. If you had pusher systems in between each one of those, it would take up a ton of space. Take up a ton of weight. You wouldn't be able to put as many into orbit. So just by having that little spin and then the let go, off they go on their own, and they just space themselves out, because it's just slightly different speeds there. And sometimes they bump into each other, just a little bit of jostling, and that's okay. They're designed to do that. And so that's roughly what that looks like. It's something we did in Kerbal Space Program with our Patreon members a couple weeks, actually a couple months ago here now, but we did this on one of our live streams and set this up so that we could show you all here today. So we've got a couple other... We've only got a couple minutes here. I'll show this one more time. We're at 11 and a half minutes for Starlink, so they're going to deploy at about 14 minutes, a little over 14 minutes, and we'll see that deployment. I'll show this to you one more time, just in case you want to see it. Somebody wants to know what transonic means. That's basically, this is the opposite of supersonic. So supersonic, you break the sound barrier, going faster than the speed of sound. Transonic is when you slow down and you break the sound barrier going less than the speed of sound now. So it's just that transition point there. How many Starlink satellites will Starship hold? I believe it's about 400 for Starship. So there's only like 60 that go on the Falcon 9, but I think Starship would be capable of up to 400. I did want to mention, I saw we got a couple of super chats that came in. Jeff Murrin, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate the support there. Said hopefully they can get it up this time. That was like right before launch. Thanks for your support there, Jeff. And Wes Quist. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate your support there as well. So we're still got a couple minutes here before we actually get to deployment here. No space mice this time. Yeah, it's tough to see the space mice, especially when you get a night launch. A little bit tougher to see the space mice. Sonic booms occur when it goes transonic. When the shuttle used to come home, it would cause sonic booms. Yeah, the Falcon 9 will have sonic booms as well, but this is out over the ocean, so there's not really anybody there to hear it except for the crew that's out there with the drone ship. Again, they're not on the drone ship during landing, but they are on a support ship nearby, and then after it lands, they got this little octograbber Roomba thing that goes up and grabs onto it to hold it down to the deck, make it safe for the crew to come on board. Looks like we're getting some thruster firings here. Look at that. They still got music, but you can see the thruster firings lighting up the night sky there. And again, they're just doing this maneuver here. You'll see my thruster firings in our animation here. You can see right there. That's pretty much exactly what's happening, and you're just seeing that reflection of those thruster fires. So we'll switch back over because we're
for our Starlink launch today. Now, if you're just joining us, we had a successful liftoff at 9:13 p.m. Eastern Time, successfully recovered our first stage for the 7th time. That's a first time for us. And you're currently looking at a live view of the second stage in a nominal orbit around planet Earth. We're coming up on deployment of the Starlink satellites. You can see the stack of those on your screen in just about 10 seconds. Now, over the course of the break, we began spinning the second stage along its central axis.
Watch right here,
That's to
this
give
pin.
Those Starlink satellites a little bit of momentum upon separation.
We'll see this pin right here start to pull out. It's going to head this way. It's going to go like that way. This pin is really hard to do in a camera. That pin's going to start to pull out, and then it just lets go of the satellites. There it goes. See it moving there? Away it goes. Slowly, the pin just falls away.
Looks like we have a visual there.
Starlink deploy confirmed.
And call out of confirmation of Starlink deployment. So those 60 Starlink satellites gently floating away from the second stage. And because of the spin on the second stage, they'll start to space themselves out. Soon, they'll deploy a solar array that they have on board, and then over the next few days and weeks, they'll distance themselves out further using an onboard ion thruster to make their way to an operational orbit about 550 kilometers above the Earth's surface. So overall, very exciting day for us at SpaceX. First time we have flown a booster for the 7th time. First time we have landed a booster for the 7th time. And of course, always lovely to see our payload deployment successful on the mission.
And that will bring our webcast to a close this evening. Thank you to the Range and FAA for supporting today's mission. And of course, thank you to all of our viewers, as well as those in the US and Canada who have ordered Starlink under our public beta program. If you haven't signed up yet and are interested in being part of our beta program, head over to starlink.com and sign up. Thanks for joining us and have a great evening.
All right. So that's it. That's a wrap. Just like that. So a couple things. We'll get a couple questions answered, and then we'll kind of call it a night here. Quick one, but we do have some exciting stuff coming up over the next couple of days. We've got SN8, the Starship, going to do its 15-kilometer test flight here as early as next week. That will be pretty exciting to see. You're going to want to stick around for that, and you're probably going to want to turn on notifications for that, because usually if I go live for that, you get like less than 10 minutes notice. So you don't get a ton of notice for those Starship hops, so you really got to have the notifications turned on if you want to ensure that you're not going to miss that Starship hop. Let's see, I'm just getting this all sorted out here so we can get this back up. I'm going to put a replay up while I answer some questions here. We'll switch over to... I guess I'll switch over... Which one? I'll switch to this one, and we'll put the replay text up. Should I move the replay text? Let's move the replay text up here. Okay. Is Starship new? Yeah, Starship is their next generation vehicle that's going to take humans to the moon and Mars. And it is SN8. SN6, we already had SN6. This is SN8 that will be doing the hop. Oh yeah, Lukumlai 13 said you wanted to say something about the telemetry that was missing. Yeah, the telemetry that I had the other day, we will have that again. But it does cost money to do that, so thank you to our Patreon members and our YouTube channel members. That's how we pay for stuff like that. But yeah, it does cost money, so I probably won't do it on every launch. But we'll definitely have it again. We just don't have unlimited funds for stuff like that, but we can we'll do it again for sure. Any West Coast launches coming up? No, not that I know. Those are going to be pretty few and far between. So, I don't think, I don't know of any that are coming up anytime soon. I don't know when the next West Coast would be. I'm looking at my list of launches here to see if there is even one, like, way out there on the schedule, but I don't see... Oh, there's one for Vandenberg. Sarah 1, February would be the next tentative West Coast launch. Sarah 1 and some ride shares launching in February. That's our next potential West Coast launch. Our next live stream will probably be the Starship prototype if it goes next week. If it doesn't go next week, then it would be the CRS mission, CRS-21, which will be the first resupply mission to the International Space Station using the new Dragon. It will be uncrewed, no crew on board, but it will be the same style Dragon, just the cargo variant of it, and it will be sending supplies to the International Space Station. So there will be 2 Dragons at the International Space Station, and that is scheduled for next Saturday, December 5th. Let's see. And then we've got a bunch of launches in December as well. We've got a launch of a Sirius XM satellite for satellite radio. We've got Turksat 5A. We've got another Starlink 16 going up. We got Starlink 17 going up. We got Starlink 18 going up. We got NROL 108. Those are all scheduled for December. So we've got lots of time for that. What cameras do they strap on the rocket? I don't know specifically what cameras they are. How will the Crew 2 dock while Crew 1 is docked? So the crew capsule, the Crew Dragon, is capable of docking at 2 different ports there. It's a good question to think about. Will they dock? I guess I'm curious where they're going to dock it. So the Crew Dragon can dock at the forward port, which is where it did dock, or it can also dock at the zenith port at the space station. There's a bunch of ports at the space station, so they can... Let's move this replay text up here as well. We don't want to confuse people that come in. So it has two ports on the American side that it can dock to. There are 4 ports on the American side, 4 ports on the Russian side. There's lots of ports up there, but I'm guessing they're going to dock it to the zenith port. That's my thought, at least. How about you play some Mars Horizon? I've been looking at Mars Horizon. I don't have that yet, but I would like to. I would like to do that. I generally, those gaming streams, I'm usually going to leave those for like our Patreon members and our YouTube channel members. Give them a little bit of a bonus for supporting the channel. But we'll definitely do some of that. Maybe as early as this weekend. I have to see how my schedule goes this weekend. But if you're a Patreon or YouTube channel member in the top 2 tiers there, keep an eye out. So we might do something this weekend. Might do one of those gaming things, because I bet I haven't played Among Us yet. I haven't played Mars Horizon. It's been a while since we've done Kerbal. I got lots of stuff that we haven't done. I've been dying to do some of those, so we might have to do one of those. Let's see. Why do they need landing lights? Well, I think there's some lights on the ship, but generally they don't really need landing lights that I know. I mean, I don't think there's actually landing lights. There are some lights on the ship so that the engineering cameras, like that camera view that we can see, they can see what's happening on the ship. But those are generally not for the rocket itself. Most of the light that you see is from the engine. Did SpaceX skip SN7? No, SN7 was a test tank that they tested to the breaking point. So they did have an SN7. It was a pressure test vehicle that they just destroyed on purpose to see where it would break. Charles Cornett, they said on the Crew Dragon launch the capsule will be moving to the other port so the next one can arrive at that one. Yeah, so that is one thing that they're testing on the Crew Dragon, but my understanding was they were going to move ports to make way for the Boeing CST-100 Starliner. Not necessarily for the Dragon resupply, but they might move it for the Dragon resupply. Not really sure. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they move it for the Dragon resupply. But my original understanding was they were going to move it for the Boeing CST-100 Starliner. That might do a redo on its orbital flight test. Let's see. Hey, Foxabilo upgraded his channel membership to the Rocket Engineer tier. He must want to see that stuff this weekend. Thanks, Foxabilo. Thanks for your support. Appreciate it. Isn't the next West Coast launch Delta IV Heavy NRO L82? It might be. I was only looking at SpaceX West Coast launches. I wasn't looking at all the launches. So the next one at, let's see, what did you say? NRO L82? Let me see. Next West Coast from all rocket companies would be, you're probably right, but I was only looking at SpaceX West Coast launches. So so I see NROL 82. I also see a Firefly Alpha launching from Vandenberg on December 22nd. That might be the next one. Firefly Alpha launching from Slick 2W at Vandy. I don't know anything about that. I'm gonna have to look at that, but I didn't know they were gonna launch that from Vandenberg. Did you see the millionaire donated to Starship Hospital after the Rocket Lab launch? Yeah, I saw that. $286,000 generated during that Rocket Lab launch that we watched the other day. That was pretty awesome. So everything that breaks off the side lights just stays in space. Yeah, so keep in mind, one of the things, like a lot of people ask about the pin that comes off the little tension rod that holds the Starlink satellites in. They're like, oh, is that just space junk now? The Starlink satellites intentionally get put in a lower orbit. And they, that way, if something happens and they can't communicate with the Starlink satellites, they will automatically, just from a little bit of atmospheric drag, they will deorbit.
It's gonna deorbit.
And that the same thing will happen with that tension rod. Here's our landing again. But that tension rod it's going to deorbit.
It's gonna deorbit.
Just because it's in that lower orbit, that lower orbit, and it has a little bit of atmospheric drag, so it'll deorbit from that. Eventually, it'll take a little while for it to deorbit, but it will.
It's gonna deorbit.
Right, it's going to deorbit. And the same thing would happen for anything, like if there's any sort of like minor debris or something like that. Like sometimes you get like washers or nuts or bolts, and not necessarily on the Falcon 9, but sometimes you can see that those would all deorbit as well, because they're in that lower orbit. And sometimes when they break off, they would be suborbital anyways. They're not in orbit. Can Falcon 9 carry crew on board? Yes. That's exactly what carries the Crew Dragon. Is the Falcon 9 carries the Crew Dragon. So yes, the Falcon 9 is rated for crewed flight. Can the Dragon resupply capsule be used to transport astronauts if an emergency was present? No, I don't believe so. It's not going to be outfitted with any of the crew life support or seats or anything like that. So no, it's not going to. It wouldn't be able to support crew on board. Jen says, hey, Tori, are you planning to do some research or reports about ESA activities? I think ESA also has some awesome rockets. Not necessarily opposed to it. I don't know if I can speak intelligently enough on it. If there's a big event, usually I would get a little more involved in some of those things like that. But some of the more routine stuff, I just not as up to date as I probably am with SpaceX and Rocket Lab and things like that. Looks like they solved the rodent problem, no mouse. Yeah, that'll be, those are tough to see at night. I wish they would launch Falcon Heavy soon. I want to see the velocity go way up to 40 kilometers per hour. Yeah, Falcon Heavy, there is a Falcon Heavy planned, I think is targeting February. Would be our next Falcon Heavy. So we will get back to that at some point. Let's see, where is my Falcon Heavy? Where are you, Falcon Heavy? There you go. United States Space Force number 44. Launch, oh, it says net May now. I guess we got a little bit of a wait. May 2021 for Falcon Heavy. Well, that's a bummer. Is there another one? Oh, there's another one on my screen that I can't see. I got something blocking me here. Then there's a United States USS F-52 scheduled for July 2021. So we could get two close Falcon Heavies that are near each other. That could be possible. Super Salty Peanut. If weather and winds can cause scrubs, then how do they plan to starship so often? I think some of it, I think there's going to be a lot that they're going to have to do to certify Starship to launch frequently, especially with, weather and winds is definitely a concern. There are different launch vehicles definitely have different parameters. So some launch vehicles can handle better winds, like United Launch Alliance actually can famously handle better upper level winds because they can steer into the upper level winds better than most other rocket companies. That's one thing that United Launch Alliance has going for them. And I don't know, maybe SpaceX has that available now, but this is going back a couple of years ago. It used to be a big advantage for United Launch Alliance. But yeah, different vehicles have different parameters. It's possible that maybe the Starship would be so robust that it would be able to launch your stuff like that. Remember the Soyuz rocket? It seems like the Soyuz launches through anything. They'll just launch. It could be downpouring with lightning striking all over the place and overcast clouds and a tornado outside, and the Soyuz is like, send her up. And so that seems like they can launch that thing through anything. But it will be something that they have to that they're gonna have to work through if they want to launch as frequently as they want to launch. I mean, I don't think you're gonna see those frequent flights right out of the gate that they're really hoping for. I think it's going to be a little while before they get there. When can you restart weather balloon activities? What's next? It's probably not going to be until this whole pandemic situation is over. So we're probably talking, I don't know, maybe May or June next year we might be able to do it again. I can't tell you what's on it next because it's supposed to be secret, but I'm excited for it. I was excited for it this year, but yeah, maybe next May or June we'll do another weather balloon flight. Hopefully. I'm hoping we can get back to those. There we go. Here's our deployment again. Did the Falcon 9 launch? Yes. You missed it. Soyuz is cramped. I do want to make sure. I want to mention. I mean, I made a joke in the 2-Minute Tuesday, not this week's 2-Minute Tuesday, but the 2-Minute Tuesday from 2 episodes ago about how cramped the Soyuz was. The Soyuz does have an orbital module, which is a lot bigger, comparable in size to the Crew Dragon. They're not using it too much these days because they can get to the space station so quickly. But it does have that. It's just more fun to show you the cramped picture there. I got a lot of hate comments that I didn't show the orbital module and I just showed the picture of everybody crammed in the descent module. Any idea the name of the tugs that are towing the landing barges around? I want to look them up on marine traffic. Yeah, I can tell you what those are. I don't know which one is out there right now. If somebody else knows that off the top of their head, you can certainly drop it in the comments. But I can look it up for you because I do have that here somewhere. Pretty sure I have it. Let me see if I can find the tug that's pulling the drone ship right now. Oh, Go Quest. Of course, I Still Love You is out there with Go Quest. That's one of the support ships that has the crew that handles the drone ship operations. So you can look up where Go Quest is. Because Go Quest is with, of course, I Still Love You, and Hawk is the tug that's pulling the drone ship. Imagine the pressure of the tug driver. I mean, the guy driving the tug, it doesn't go very fast. So I don't think there's a ton of pressure. It's slow and steady. Slow and steady gets him there. All right, well, it's going to be kind of short and sweet today. Why is the Soyuz so cramped anyways? I mean, it is an older design, but they designed it with that, that added orbital module on there, so that cramped area is really just for sitting. It's actually not as cramped as it looks. It is like it's relatively comfortable as far as like seating. Like you're in that descent module. You know, it's just seats. You got your interface, your buttons. Like you have the same amount of space that you would if you're an astronaut on Crew Dragon. It's just the fact that they have all that extra stuff that looks like it's encroaching in your space, but it's really not. It's just a funny picture. Let's see. Carrie Ann. Oh, thanks for the super chat, Carrie Ann. Says, Happy Thanksgiving. Well, I think, Carrie, thank you very much, Carrie. I think that's a perfect place to end it here today. I think we're all, it's going to be a little bit different this year. Hopefully everybody's going to stay safe out there. I know it's going to be different around here where I am, but we'll get through. We're going to get through it. And we'll be back here for more rocket launches, right? So that's I think where we're going to end it here. And I will just say to everybody here in the United States, Happy Thanksgiving. To everybody around the world, have a great week. Stay safe. And if you want to continue the conversation, jump on our Discord server. That's completely free. There's no cost to it. You can jump on there and you can continue the chat with us in between launches. And if you want to take that extra step and become a paid supporter of the channel and help me pay for stuff like the telemetry streams that we had, or, you know, any of the stuff that goes into making this, lights and cameras and microphones and all kinds of stuff, all that stuff is supported by people like you. So you can become a Patreon member or a YouTube channel member to help support the show if you like this kind of thing. But if you don't want to do any of that stuff, that's cool too. Just having you here watching is pretty awesome. I'm glad you guys are here with us. So that's where we're going to end it. My name's Tori. This is Overlook Horizon, and I will see you guys on hopefully next week for Starship SN8. That'll be pretty exciting. And maybe I'll chat it up with you guys on Discord in a little while. All right, have a good night. Have a great week. Happy Thanksgiving if you're in the US. Stay safe wherever you are, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody. See ya.